cell phone. Not 2 billion people, not 1 billion people, but 6 billion people. These are business people. These are potential clients and customers and collaborators. Think about the stuff you could do. I'm not just saying just with SMS. There's no need to limit it just to SMS. But think about this. Mobile phone companies are making a fortune in places that we were previously told had no money and no ability to sustain any kind of technology. The people who told us that were wrong. There's money to be made. There's good to be done. There are things to be invented that can really benefit the world. And I really encourage people, to, again, not to think of these as people in need. Think of them as potential friends, collaborators, folks that you can work with to get things done. And I'll just close by saying thank you, of course, to my mom and dad, and to Rose. Thank you, Rose. And Mark Grabowski, Paul Margie, formerly of UN Foundation, Andy Gay at UN Foundation, Noreen Hines, who's one of our board members, the United Nations Foundation, Vodafone Foundation, who would kill me if I didn't mention them, and the Kenyan Ministry of Health has been so instrumental in helping us to go through the bugs with EpiSurveyor, and finally, of course, Ms. Lemelson and the Lemelson Foundation for having me here. Thanks very much.
Well, that was really great. Thank you, Joel. Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to just say, let's give Joel another round of applause. That was just a great talk. So there's no check tonight for Joel. That's going to be tomorrow night, so you're all welcome back. This effectively concludes tonight's presentation. So if you didn't have a chance to see the events team's projects outside, please spend some time with these amazing students. And I'd like to encourage everyone to join us for the rest of the Eureka Fest events, which will include tomorrow night award ceremony, which will be held here at 6:30. And where we're going to celebrate the winner of the $500,000 Lemelson-MIT Prize, Dr. Chad Merkin, sitting right up here. And then Saturday, of course, and Dr. Selanikio will be back to get his check.
No direct deposit.
And, oh, that's right, you can do it over the cell phone.
No cell phone banking. Even at MIT.
And then, of course, Saturday is Eureka Fest will be at the Boston Museum of Science, where we're going to have an all-day design challenge on wind power, and we're basically going to take over the museum. So I'm really looking forward to that myself, and my kids will be there too. So, okay, so good night, and thank you all.
I think you wanted me to do a Q&A as well. Oh! You were probably wondering why I came up here.
No. Well, look, that's a great idea. So we've just changed the script that I was given, and we're going to take question and answers.
If there are any questions.
Yeah. Any questions?
I can't actually see it.
Yeah, neither can I. So is there?
Thank you very much. This is a really inspiring look at the technology that a lot of us have in our pockets. One of the starkest differences between the internet and the biggest network that came before it, which was the public telephone network, was the openness at the edges. It's kind of a truism among internet pioneers that all the innovation happens at the edges. I don't know what it's like in other parts of the world. Certainly here, this platform that we all carry in our pocket is very, very restricted. It's very hard to get one's ideas or applications deployed on it. What advice would you give to those of us who would like to open that up so that the innovation actually can happen at the edges? What's the path there from here?
Well, you know, it's interesting because we deal with this stuff all the time, and even on an SMS platform, as the young man here had indicated, we constantly run into incompatibilities between what's supposed to be a universally compatible system. So we go to, for example, we have a project in Chile where you try to send an SMS between one carrier and another one, and it doesn't go through, and we have to spend days or weeks trying to figure out what the problem is. So there's lots of incompatibilities even in that low-end system. But I would say, I mean, look at things like the App Store on the iPhone. I mean, talk about encouraging collaboration. What is it, 50,000 apps? Now, of course, many of those apps have to do with, bodily functions, et cetera, and are not particularly useful to people. But I think there are clearly ways, regardless of whether it's an open platform or closed one, for people to collaborate. I guess, for me, the real secret is I keep my expectations really, really low. I mean, even the SMS systems I pointed out to you, I'm like, my God, I mean, those things could save people hundreds of thousands of hours of time and calories spent walking, et cetera. This is, I mean, this stuff would be enormously helpful to know where the clinic is, et cetera. This is really, really low-tech stuff that we could do. And again, for me, I'm quite content to do something that's really low-tech because I recognize, again, that we're starting from zero. We're starting from nothing. But I agree. I mean, I share your frustration in terms of moving forward, and I'm not really sure what to do at the higher end. I think, like with other technology platforms, people will eventually demand that openness, and you will see more open standards. Yes?
I'm interested in your distribution model. You have a great tool that is free. A great tool that is free, and it's open source. But could you tell us about how you got health workers to actually use this, and was that easy?
Well, in the case of EpiSurveyor, it was actually, I mean, it seems easy in retrospect, but the real difficulty was getting someone to recognize the value of the software. And when we eventually were able to do that with the help of the United Nations Foundation, working with WHO, when we finally got WHO to realize this was going to be a real time saver and money saver, this was going to really revolutionize the collection of data in these countries, WHO basically adopted that as one of their standards. And then working with WHO and with the UN Foundation and Vodafone Foundation, who provided funding for this, we were able to actually implement that in numerous countries under WHO auspices. So there's sort of, you get kind of, I guess, a patron in the sense of WHO putting their stamp of approval on it, and then actually arranging to go out and train people in those countries. So it wasn't a situation where, for example, you have to just convince the public to use something, and how would you get them to do that? So for us, I guess, again, I'm thinking back now at all the difficulties we had, but it seems comparatively easy if, in fact, you're talking about a pretty well-defined group that, in fact, are all working for a central government, which is these health officers, and obviously that's a bit easier than other ways. Sir?
Excuse me?
Thank you, thank you. How would you see the future when we look at that 6 billion folk and understand that the language barrier is certainly an obstacle? Can you tell us how you're addressing that?
Well, language barrier is substantial, although, of course, those of us in the United States are lucky enough to speak the new lingua franca of the world, right? So, of course, many people, even if they're not fluent, they do understand enough English. But I think we certainly go through hassles of translating the software into different languages. I mean, you could speculate about machine translation and how that is going to help, where you have sort of automatic translation, envisioning a future in which you're having a conversation with someone through some technology where they're speaking one language and you're speaking another, and neither of you knows that. I mean, I think, actually, I mean, we're probably, someone probably sitting in the audience or someone close by is probably working on exactly that right now. But I think, I mean, we're not working on anything like that. We're busy translating our software into French and Spanish and Swahili and things like that. I think even in terms of things like literacy, though, I think there's a tremendous amount that can be done. And again, here's where I would ask people, stretch your mind, think about what you could actually do. How come nobody has invented a cell phone game that teaches people how to read? I mean, a cell phone not only gives you a computer in your hand connected to a network, but you can also send cell phone minutes, which in every developing country of the world is as good as cash, right? Giving people cell phone minutes. You can properly incentivize people. You could reward people for reaching different levels. How come nobody's written something like that? And again, keep your expectations low. Let's assume you could only teach half of 1% of the illiterate people in the world how to read at a basic level. Oh, well, that wouldn't be very good. It would only be better than the most successful education programs that have ever been invented to address illiteracy, if you could reach that half of 1%. These folks have got a computer. Think about what you could do with it. I can't tell. No. You guys all look like a big white spot to me.